Go ahead.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Lexi, will you take roll call, please?
Commissioner Corbin?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Waldner?
Here.
Commissioner Thel?
Here.
Mayor Denner?
Here. We have the agenda in front of us.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
I got a motion to adopt the agenda and a second. All in favor, signify by aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Seeing nothing under appearance and acknowledgement, does anybody want anything removed from the consent calendar?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We got a motion to approve the consent calendar and a second. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Unfinished business, we'll open up the public hearing upon application for sales of alcoholic beverages, temporary alcohol license, Knights of Columbus, St. Thomas Gala.
I just wired visitors there.
Lexi, did you have anything? Are we good on that?
We're good on that.
Okay. Chad, or
I didn't have any comments. This is except I'll just say a few things, and Tim Solman's here as well.
Okay.
It's the annual gala that the Knights have operated a refreshment bar at for probably 10 years, maybe not quite 10, and it's to permit sales for that event.
Tim, if you have anything, you can come on up and.
Unless you have questions.
Yeah, we got a quiz in, don't we? Same as last year, year before, everything's...
It will be the same as last year. We do tell anybody working that if somebody looks like they're younger than 30 and you feel like you need a card, ask for a card. Typically, the people that come to this event are well above drinking age. Other than a few college students that help serve, and some of them are old enough to drink, we definitely card them. We have a couple of our members that do not drink that are usually there to offer rides if somebody needs one. We make that known as well. Other than that, it's done by about 11 o'clock at night, and so kind of a low-key event, really. Not all of us.
Where's that after?
Where?
Yeah.
At St. Thomas School, in the gym.
You gotta have parking. No, that's not an issue. It's parking.
No.
Do you have any other comments, discussion on this?
It's always been
Okay.
well maintained and well cared for.
Okay, not hearing anything else, we'll close the public hearing. We'll move down into new business. Approve application for sale of alcoholic beverages, temporary alcohol license, Knights of Columbus, St. Thomas Gala.
I'll move that.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion? Not. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 2.
Thank you, Tim, appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Good luck
Tim.
on your
Thanks.
event.
Thank you.
Number 2, authorize mayor to sign change order number 1, Prundy Construction Company Water Main Improvement Project 2019-3. Chad?
Thank you, Your Honor, and members of the commission. Included in the agenda packet is a 2-page change order that makes the changes that I'm about to talk about. On this project was completed on August 22nd, and there was 2 parts to the project: Summit Avenue from 9th to 11th and 6th Street from Washington to Egan Avenue. During the course of the work on 6th Street, we were excavated after installation of the water main, and we did some checking of the grade to see if it would be adequate or suitable to sustain the placement of the granular material, and then on top of that, the asphalt base, and it did not appear so. We had that consultation with the contractor and some of his subcontractors, and then due to the nature of it and the potential costs involved for if we need to make change, we did ask a firm, Geotech Engineering out of Sioux Falls, to come up and also share their professional opinions as well. And the long story short is they agreed with our assessment, my assessment, that we needed some additional granular material installed and some geotechnical fabric on the base of the roadway for nearly the entire length from Washington to 6th Street. So there was cost for excavation and digging out the material, the poorer material, and then chronologically, of course, then you place the geofabric. It's like a blanket on top of that subgrade, and then the third part of this is placing about an additional 6 inches of granular material on top of that. There was 12 inches planned, but we felt it appropriate to use the 6. In addition, it's not in this change order because we had estimated, we put in some quantities for some crushed material as well. So the far east end of the job was even worse. So we had to utilize some of that crushed material to help get stability as well. So it was a poorer grade. Unfortunately, we had to increase the section, as we would refer to it, to build that road adequately. So that's part one, where you see the 3 line items referenced. The other part would be with this change order, we're extending the substantial completion date time to account for some of the abnormal weather conditions we had this year, some additional rain, which extended the date of completion, substantial completion, from August 16th, which we had put into the contract documents, to August 22nd, so an addition of 6 days there. But then furthermore, what I'll refer to as final completion, we extended that to the spring of 2020, particularly June 15th of 2020, to allow the contractor to do some of the remedial work at that time. We want to look at some of the trenches after a freeze-thaw cycle and such, and so that will give him an opportunity, them, an opportunity to address what we find deficient after the frost is out next year. There are a few things that we've identified in the punch list, and we've agreed to allow those to be deferred, and that's why it's in here. When I say we agreed, I'm recommending that you agree. It's maybe more appropriate to say it that way. So the contractor, we're not, if there's some few patches of asphalt repair, we're not trying to do that in cold weather and such like that. So those are the 2 parts to this change order. I would recommend approval. And I'd stand by for questions.
We talked about that additional aggregate base before and stuff, and so yeah. Great way to do it. I mean, you're in the mess. Obviously, those guys were fighting the rain like everybody else. And I will say kudos to this contractor, on their reseeding of the boulevard for the residents along, at least on 6th Street.
Okay.
Obviously, I live there. I walk there a lot, and I tell you, if we'd have had their same, whether they did it or their subcontractor, they should have done Center Street. We wouldn't have had citizens in here complaining and having to go back and fix that. So pass that back on to them. That, kudos to the work that they did on that. And the road looks nice too. I mean, obviously I can't see underneath it, but so.
Yeah, we'll let them know. I know it was a little bit more ideal to plant. It was a good grass growing year all the way around, but to plant in the fall or later time, and they got some timely rains. Much less area disturbed, of course, than Center Street, but still, the effort they put forth, it does look good out there.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is this something that you're gonna do when we grind the streets, is keep that, ground up asphalt so we can mix it with gravel
Yeah, that's a good
for a
question.
base
We,
course?
we try to do that as much as possible. Not on all projects it doesn't work as well. Just, we look at them on a case by case, the condition of the existing street, and how much, also a factor is how much granular is underneath of any type of asphalt as well. So we're going to mill it, oftentimes we'll mill through the asphalt surfacing and into that base to get
Yeah.
an initial mix. We may have to blend even more gravel into it. But we've talked about trying to implement this material, that type of material, a blended material, into the surfacing section. And we think we can do that in cases. The geotechnical people are always a little gun shy to specify that in the section because they can't say for certain the quality of that material that's in place, and so they always want to be a little bit conservative. So it may or may not go into the roadway section or the layers of granule that we place in there, but at minimum we can mill it off and haul it to our stockpile. You know, we have a stockpile down by the dog pound right now, and maybe even we have some in other places. I thought so, yeah. So, yeah, we look at that on every project on a case-by-case basis, so.
What was budgeted for this job?
There was, amongst several funds, 3 different funds, there was $730,000 in the budget, and this takes this to about $690,000. So I hadn't had a chance to break those down, but I'm confident we're sitting pretty good with all those.
It's always exciting when we can finish under budget.
40,000.
That's real money.
I'd much rather do it without having to add this $30,000, but sometimes that's the way it goes with construction and underground. But
I'll make a motion, we authorize mayor to sign change order number 1, Front-Me Construction Company Water Main Improvement Project 2019-3.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further comments, discussion? Not, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Number 3, authorize the mayor to sign certificate of substantial completion, Prundy's Construction Company Water Main Improvement Project 2019-3. Chad.
thank you, Your Honor. Included, and Mayor and members of the commission, included in the agenda packet is the 1-page certificate of substantial completion. It's related to what I had just talked about. At each project, it's defined what constitutes substantial completion. The contractor achieved that on August 22nd for this particular project. There was 2 work areas for this project. The completion date was extended, that substantial completion, just in this last action you had approved from the 16th to the 22nd, and I believe that was reasonable. And so I would recommend that you approve this as well. It, among other things, it sets the date for warranty items, and then there's other items referenced in our contract documents particular to the date of substantial completion. So it's kind of a typical contract document.
So we've seen them before.
Yes, sir.
I will make a motion, we authorize the mayor to sign certificate of substantial completion. Again, Front-Me Construction Company Water Main Improvement Project 2019-3.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion?
So the project covered 6th Street and Summit, the 2 different areas, right?
Yes,
One
sir.
project.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you.
Do they have any punch list on Summit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So
those
there's
are
still punch.
correct. There's a few minor ones, some touch up on some seating. There are some asphalt repairs that we anticipate next year. So, correct.
Thank you. Any further comment, discussion? Not, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 4, approve proposal for land surveying service, Sayers Associate Inc., Water Main Improvement Project 2020-1. And we need to know where this is coming out of, right, Lexi's?
Correct.
Yeah. Did you want me to say a few things
Yep.
about this,
Yep.
Jimmy? Okay, thank you. Included in the agenda packet is a one-page letter for the services. Basically, I'll try to be brief and then stand by for questions, but this project was brought to our attention and requested for us to look into by Jan Tiemann and his crews there because they've had several water main breaks in this area over the last couple of years, and they lose a lot of water in this area. So we jumped this up on the list and are starting to go through the process of scoping and then actually surveying. And in this case, which is a bit unique to some of the projects that we do, we have to get easements. This happens to be south of, on Division Avenue from North 1st Street down to 4th Street South, and south of the railroad tracks, and actually a couple parcels north. There isn't enough, not our typical right-of-way available. Actually, only about half of the roadway is dedicated for the right-of-way, which was done in plats long ago, 50, 60, 80 years ago. And it's also coincident with the city limits line, particularly south of the tracks. East of the roadway, or this corridor, it's outside city limits, and so we need to locate the property pins that are in place, which are right on the quarter line, and then we have to approach these landowners on the east side of the quarter line, which are outside city limits, and try to ask them for easements to put this water line in. We've done some preliminary review of the location of the existing utilities. They're being surveyed right now, and we don't believe there's enough room to put the new water line in within the existing right-of-way. So we need that easements. Hopefully we can acquire them, and so we need a monument where the pins are, and then a surveyor, licensed surveyor, has to come in and reset them during construction because they'll be almost certainly disturbed during the project. Furthermore, as we prepare the easements, we may need exhibits to attach to it to reference where the property is. Perhaps not. I'm going to try to visit with the landowners and use the documents, perhaps in coordination with Mr. Jenks, such that we wouldn't have to have an exhibit. You may notice on this letter that I tried to get these things itemized. So if we need more or less, we'll pay just for what we use of any of these 5 bulleted items, and then or if we could eliminate a bullet point, any of those altogether, we'll try to do that as well. But I kind of need to get going. It adds a new twist trying to get easements. Most time, all of our work is in the right of way. It's acquired. We don't have to pursue this, and so we'll get this going, and hopefully we can meet with the folks this fall, and hopefully it works out well. Yeah, real soon.
Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you know what the total is on that?
Oh shoot.
Do the math, but
Yeah. It'll be unknown because you could add up these 3 items that are shown, but then there's some disturbed monuments will be 100 each and some new.
150 each.
Yeah.
So you don't know how many those are, so.
So I'm talking about 4 or 5. The 3 items that are shown here is about $5,000, and then 100 to 150 each. So perhaps probably up to $7,000 would be the most I would expect this
Not
would
to
cost.
exceed $8,000.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I know, I have a question, you'd be judicious about this, so I'm not afraid to say it.
Is it Fourth Center, the gravel portion of South Division, the whole thing?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What
Fourth
what
to Center?
length is the project we're looking at?
From First to,
From
First Street North, yeah,
Okay, so we don't go all the way down to Fourth.
we go all the way to Fourth,
Yeah,
yes.
to Fourth.
all the way to Fourth,
South
Start on South First and go to.
North First.
North First, a block above.
Forward.
North,
Yeah.
the road
Yeah,
going
should we
into
even
the
come back?
Bachman Bly.
Okay.
We've put it into the budget, and I guess this would segue somewhat into what Mayor Dennard had mentioned. We had initially requested this in the budget. We estimate it's going to be just over $500,000 out to be spent in 2020. It would be allocated into the IIP plan. But most of the items in the IIP, particularly in the water in this case, that portion of the project would be covered from the water fund. But there will be a street portion, probably about pretty close to 50-50 is what I estimate right now. The street or surfacing portion as to the water main portion. So I guess if you want to call out where to take it from, you could take it from the water fund, cash balance, and 50% from there and 50% from second cent fund or the general fund, essentially, because we can't charge projects out of the second cent fund. It has to be distributed to the respective funds, and then they're allocated, and that's how we do our projects. So I would just suggest that this just proceed in the same manner that the balance of the project will be charged out.
For 20, and this will be for,
Pardon?
yes.
you charge me for 20?
Correct. These will likely get invoices for this in 2019, because we're doing this work very soon. So there may be some dates. Usually we set up project codes within the finance office, and it all catches together into that project cost.
I'll make a motion, we approve the proposal for land surveying services, Sayer Associates Incorporated, Water Main Improvement Project 2020-1, not to exceed $8,000, with the funds coming from either water fund cash balance or the general funds based on the project as it is.
Second.
I have a question for Chad before
Okay.
we vote. You're gonna leave that one block between North First and Second Street? Because on the north side of Third Street, it's got a fairly new plastic water line going up Division.
Yep.
And Fifth Street's got new water line, so we're gonna leave one block between First and Third?
Between second and first, we did that, I think, in '07. That's already got a new water main in it.
That's got a new.
Yeah, yep. We
Okay.
did that when we did the division project going north of Second. We did come across the highway there and tie in at that point.
Okay,
So, yeah, we will not, no, we don't want to leave any of the old main there.
no. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Are you good, Lester?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay. Bob, you okay?
yeah, I'm
Okay.
fine.
Any further comment, discussion? Not, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 5, approved increase to proposal for design service, Design Art Group, renovation of water building, and we'll need to know where the funds are coming from this too, right? Correct. Okay. Brad?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. You have in here, and it's basically just an email request, but the deal is there's an area above the entryway, and we're going to have like a multi-purpose storage room or whatever. The roof of that, if we reinforce that, we can use that for storage. And it'll be some pretty low-cost square footage for elevated storage. Stuff we don't use very often, but we still need to have, stored. It's going to be about 5 foot-ish, maybe 5'6" high up there, so we got some room to exploit there. It wouldn't be anything that we'd be up into all the time, but if we reinforce the roof of that, then we can store some material up there, and it'll be some of the, $800 will be some of the cheapest square footage we'll get. So this is just to hire the structural to verify the computations that the architect's putting together.
Sounds pretty cheap.
I'll make a motion to approve increase to proposal for design services, Design Art Group, renovation of water building. I assume we're using that ratio of water, electric, and wastewater unobligated cash.
Yes.
Is that a clear enough motion, or?
Second.
The MMU split.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further comment, discussion? Not, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Motion carried. Number 6, authorize mayor to sign letter of proposal for professional service, Pro Engineering Inc., renovation of water building. Same thing, we need to know on the funding too. Brent?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The architects do not do their own mechanical or electrical drawings. They have that subbed out. They can't get that bid to them until they lay out the plans for the building, so this is something that comes back to us. I probably should have mentioned that the last time. That's my mistake. But that's something that we did in the last set of plans. It's something you do pretty regular. Is you get your layout, and then you come back and get your bids from your design mechanical and electrical engineers, and so that's what happened here. This is the second one. The first one we went out for was substantially more, so we worked on finding another option for design and got the price reduced about 30% from what the original bid was.
And when assuming all the bids will come in and that, when are you planning on doing this project?
We would put it out for bids here this late fall and try to get started on it in the tail end of 2019 and then continue in to 2020 in the wintertime. It's all pretty much inside work, and we get pretty good prices on that when we do it that way. The contractors are looking for inside work.
Now, this is what building out there?
It's the one behind the Cars for Less building. It's kind of in between. There's 3 buildings on the lot. There's the front building that we're in. Then there's the second building on the East River lot. That's used to be the oil building where they stored all their oil and their tanker and their portable substation. And then there's the very far back building that's called a birdhouse, is just cold storage. And so this would be the intermediate building, or the middle building.
To the east.
West.
To the west.
West
to
of
the
Cars for Less.
Cars for Less, right behind. And then it sits west of 11 South.
Yeah.
I guess I have a concern, because this property, when we bought it, was supposed to be just what we wanted. We was all ready to move in, and now we're spending money hand over fist. And what are we going to tell taxpayers when they ask, what is going on?
I don't think we ever
And
said
the
it
building
was,
is supposed to be all ready to take care of, and here we are, we're spending more money every year on remodeling.
When we first bought the building, you have to go back and remember, we've been over this one other time, and I'll go over it again. We bought that when it was just going to be the electric department. After we made the initial decision to purchase the building, we consolidated the utilities and put water, sewer, and electric together. And in that process, we decided that it would be better if we could put us all into one property, open up that property out back that the water and the water distribution sewer collection guys are in, and open that up so that we could renovate that so that Gary could use it for the streets, so they'd have more room, because he has money in his budget to build a brand new building, but it didn't make sense to build a brand new building and have this other one partially completed, sitting out back, partially occupied. It seemed like the best way to do it was to renovate both buildings and spend less money overall to get better facilities for both of them. So that was the decision that was made. So
I don't recall anyone saying it was ready to go. The conversation was it was cheaper this way than building new.
Yeah, I knew when we bought it that we were going to have to spend upwards of $300,000 to straighten it out, and maybe not that amount. I'm probably misquoting my number on it, but yeah, certainly when you buy a property like that, you know that you're going to have to. It comes with some expenses.
I guess I've been out there, you showed me the water plant, the water building, where the water department is now, and I don't disagree, they need bigger area. But next year, we got the RD project going on, we have still unknowns on those. I'm not saying to not remodel this building, but maybe not this year or next year. To hold it off to see where we're going on this RD project is the only thing I have a concern about.
I understand. And my concern is that when we get to, the RD project is a 3-year project, so that pushes us out 3 years. And then we start the financing of that, we start making that payment back, it's going to be that much harder to do a renovation. And so I want to get it done beforehand, and then we're set up for anything that comes in the future. So it is kind of a race to try to get this done for the least amount of money as soon as we can, so that it's not an impediment to the RD project, and the RD project's not an impediment to it in the future. And it's chicken and egg. It's, fielder's choice.
Yeah.
I'm recommending to go one direction. You guys have the decision-making process and power to go whichever direction you please, so.
I think we can move forward with this. We'll get the RD project stuff ironed out through the budget process. I don't see this being a hindrance to effectively doing our other projects. So I'll make a motion. What do I want to motion here? I'll also authorize the mayor to sign letter of proposal for professional services, professional engineering, renovation of water building, using a combination of electric, water, wastewater, unobligated cash, up to $8,250, I believe.
Second. I'd just like to make a comment, if I could, Mayor.
Yep.
If you remember when we originally started talking about the Cars for Less building and other property, I voted against it, if I remember correctly.
You did?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
I
said
voted against it too.
And it wasn't because I just didn't think we lacked it wasn't clear to me what we were doing at that point, It wasn't that I'm an obstructionist or anything like that, but I just felt like, I just didn't have a clear vision of it at that point. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. I think we have a pretty clear vision of what we want to do here, and it's utilitarian, meaning we're going to use it to the best ability of the city and our departments, and so that's why I can support this now. But I think I have a clearer vision of this. Yeah, did we miss something here in the engineering piece? Yeah, it's certainly not a crash. It's a speed bump more for me, But I do think that this is this demonstrates to me now a clearer vision of what we're looking to do out there in that property that we've purchased, as you often say, on behalf of the taxpayers, but more rightly so, I think, of the citizens, so we can keep our facilities up and keep our equipment well cared for. So I do think very good vision on this. That's all. Thank you.
And I agree with you, Kelly. I'm not opposed to moving them over and that, but I just think with the timing, that's the only thing I have.
I just don't think the timing is right here, but
Well, you also have to remember that this is, we're doing architectural work here, or planning at this point. We're not committing design work. We're just committing to looking at the design. We're not looking at necessarily building. That could still become a question if it has to be down the road. We're just trying to get our design done.
Did the motion, you got what you needed for your motion?
Yes.
Any further comment, discussion? If not, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carried. Number 7, discuss sidewalk improvement 2020. I put this one on the agenda after talked with Chad a little bit. Last week, I do believe, was it last week or a couple weeks ago, we delayed the repair portion of the sidewalk for a year due to recent flooding. And I think we just need to probably do that for all sidewalks for right now.
Why is that?
Well, I talked to Jan, and she said this year we had to budget $200,000 for that project. We do recoup it back when the people pay for their portion of it. But they could also put it on their assessment, and it could take up to 5 years to get that money back. Again, we have a lot of unknowns right now going forward. I just feel at this point in time we need to maybe hold off on that, just like we did on the repairs.
I believe we're,
We got a lot of people in town here that lost a lot of stuff over this last 3-4 weeks. And whether it's up in that part of town, that one, then we're gonna go and tell them that they gotta put in new sidewalk if they haven't got it in. I just don't think this is the time or the place to do that.
well, we have a lot of options and flexibility. The sidewalk, we could tell this sidewalk committee to avoid the areas that were affected by the flood. There are parts of town that weren't affected. There's also parts of towns that weren't affected that don't have sidewalk. This is a process we've been doing for 15 years. I think it does the people that have installed sidewalk a disservice to suspend it when there's areas of town that we could take a look at that haven't been affected by the flood, frankly.
Chad, do you have any comment on that?
Just to take off, just to mention reiterate what Commissioner Corbin had said, just talk briefly about the program. It started in '04, and it was based upon some recommendations in the comprehensive plan of '96, where there was a sidewalk committee and they identified some areas to put in new sidewalks, and it focused on particular routes. Those were addressed by and large already. It focused on areas around schools, and many of those are starting to be addressed as well. And then the process that we've adopted for this in recent years has been to, in the budget process, to put about $40,000 right now, and that is for ADA corners. And then that typically after the budget process, I ask the sidewalk committee if they want to meet. They meet and they look at a couple different areas they've been considering. Oftentimes it's been ones that they've talked about in previous years that they weren't able to fund and do. And then basically I come back and estimate, well, for these 3 to 5 roads, to do the ADA ramps in those roads, it would cost, $60,000. And then so they would pick amongst those, whether it's 2 or 3 or 4, and try to stay within that $40,000 budget that you put together, that you allot for that. And then we slowly over the years have been getting those sidewalks put in. I'm speaking for the sidewalk committee and looking at some of the things they ask me to look at annually is they try to connect places where there's a higher density. Apartment complexes are a lot up in the northwest part of town. There's some apartments there. They wanted to get those over nearer to Chicago and west so they could get up to the school, and other different areas like that where there may be school kids walking or where they're citizens around town that they just observe where there's people walking sometimes, and so that's the process we've used and over the years. And when Mayor Dennard had talked to me about this, I said, well, I would encourage you to see what the commission wants to do, because real soon here we're going to try to convene that sidewalk committee and go through the next year's cycle of the same process. And if we need to just not do that, I'd like to know sooner than later. And I'm glad it's on for you all to consider and decide. I think as Commissioner Corbin mentioned, you know, it's been going pretty steady for about 15 years, so. And
There's a lot of us in this community that have been impacted by the flood, no doubt, no doubt. However, I'm confident that the sidewalk committee will stay away from those major areas. We've already done that with the repairs. Also, we have a great appeal process, and I know that we've been very gracious and numerous times when people come in, whether it be a health hardship or a medical hardship. Plus, we don't go on one side of a house and then the next side the next year if it's a corner lot. I mean, that's not an easy committee to be on, and they do a very nice job. And I also agree with what Corbin mentioned on, you know, if we don't continue this, then we're doing a disservice to everybody else the past 15 years who have put in their sidewalks and done the work. And so I think we'll be fine, Bobby. I know what you're trying to say, but I think there's mechanisms in place that I think we'll be fine. I think Corbin's well aware of it. They definitely have the message. You need to watch that, and if we need to, we can go through the appeals process. I don't have a problem with that. I don't know, do we need a motion for this, or is
I
this
don't think there's a
just
motion
pure
on this.
discussion?
It's not listed.
Yeah,
Requires
it's
a
just
motion.
just
I think-
to discuss, so no motion?
I think for us, as a commission, it represents that we are sensitive to what's happening to people. And we
Oh,
know we all
absolutely.
are, you know, we are. You know, a couple of weeks ago when we were out there scraping stuff up and getting it, I wanted to get everything taken care of. Why? Just so people could feel like they're starting over, you know, instead of walking out to the. And I think this does not preempt anything. It doesn't prevent us in any way from having some guy come in. So a while back we had somebody came in and had huge medical bills and asked us for, you know, an exception for a year or something. I can't remember what it was. And we said yes. And I could see that happening here too. We're not saying you don't have to do it. You're not required to do it. We're just saying we can be sensitive to that, to what's happened. But I appreciate the fact that we're in the light of what's happened to us here. We're willing to say it to the members of the community. We'll work with you.
Because it's just not in the middle of the town or the southeast,
I
it's
know.
in the
It's
northwest
great.
and everything, you know?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, what we'll, perhaps I should encourage there to be a particular vote item, since there can't be. I mean, I was hoping perhaps if it was going to be terminated this year, there could be a vote, but in the absence of that ability, I'm going to continue to try to coordinate a meeting of the sidewalk committee, and you will ultimately get an opportunity to vote that down or not. You know, we will only be out a couple meetings. But
I think your direction is continue status quo. If anything, maybe if you need to trim it back a little bit this year, this commission will be
Okay.
very fine with that. You know our sentiments on, you know, stay away from the serious known flood areas, and
we'll do. I'll pass that along.
do
I
the
know.
work.
And the sidewalk committee has done a great job. I mean, we may have a couple of times looked at things differently than them, but for the most part, I think they do a really good job of coming up with solutions for people too.
I agree. And Marshall, I do appreciate that you put this on the agenda for us to have an open
I got
discussion.
you.
Public comment? Announcements. Next week, we're changed the meeting date to October 15th. Any other announcements?
Yeah, yes, I do need to say something. I apologize. Just real brief. I'll be brief about this. A lot of people have approached us about keeping the creek cleaned out. We'll do the best we can. We'll be approaching that time of year again. But also reminding people that there are things they can do, citing Article 3, litter, Section 9-23. One of the subsections is it's unlawful to obstruct or do anything that would obstruct passage of public or private streets, highways, sidewalks, streams, ditches, or drainage. Now, in the floods, we had some situations where people had piled up branches along the creeks, you know, and I could see that if it was running through my backyard, I'd probably do the same thing. Many of those got washed into the creeks, you know, and created obstructions in places. So I would remind people that it is an ordinance, you know, and well, we have the commission, and we all have a responsibility for the waterways. So not to be piling things near the creeks that might get washed away again, because this could happen again, and unfortunately, it will happen again. So please be mindful of that. Really appreciate your assistance with that. A few years ago, somebody doing snow removal was pushing the snow into the creek, and one of the members of this panel went up to him and said, "You can't do that. It'll thaw, it'll freeze, it'll ice jams, you know." And the guy stopped doing it. And so we just all have some responsibilities too. So I would just ask the community to be mindful of that and do what you can to keep debris away from the creeks. Thank you.
You want to remind them about the electronic drop-off?
No, but you could.
Okay. We got that electronic drop-off this weekend, and we're not going to pick up. It's self-delivery, so you're going to have to bring your TVs and electronics out to the recycling center.
I think the date is set. Is it this
October 19th.
19th? Yeah.
9 to 3. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just
And that's another
every
good
other
point. A lot of times we had some questions because we left some electronics at people's houses. We didn't pick them up when we were doing the cleanup. And that's just because we have no place to put them. We didn't have any place to put them at that time. But thanks, Bob. So the 19th for the electronics drop off.
Any other announcements? Not, we'll move into executive session.